As a team of presenters, Skylar, Nicholas, Ansley, and myself, David, will present to you our researched arguments related to why Lexington needs more affordable housing. Have you ever had to decide if you should continue to pay your rent or be able to have food to eat for the next few weeks? With the cost of housing in Lexington rising at an astronomical rate, this may soon be the reality for the University of Kentucky students. As a group, this issue remains close to our heart. We have been required to navigate the local housing situation while remaining within our financial limits. Having a safe and affordable place to live is a basic human right. Fulfilling this need should not leave lasting financial effects or require someone to sacrifice their meals. Every fall, an influx of eager students flock to Lexington to obtain an education. An affordable location to call home should be the least of their worries. As a group, we will inform you about who has been affected by this increased cost of housing. We will introduce potential solutions to the crisis, such as reforming zoning laws, offering more financial assistance, and how a decrease in construction cost could alleviate the rising cost of housing to the end user. We will further demonstrate how increased rent prices and the lack of affordable housing has affected students that attend the University of Kentucky. Finally, some actions you can take to help those affected will be presented. This includes raising awareness of the Section 8 housing program, contacting university housing representatives or city officials, or simply participating in clubs that work to improve the lives of students in the area. University students are attempting to survive in the middle of a housing crisis, often without a job. There is a struggle to balance a budget, a GPA, and a social life. Living amid an issue that normally affects working individuals, students may now be required to burden themselves with additional high-interest loans that can take decades to pay off after they have concluded their studies. Housing in the area has seen a steep rise in costs. In 2024, Bryant of Civic Lex found the average price of a home in Lexington was $310,343. This is a 60% increase over 2019 when the purchase price averaged just $193,750. Students are being left behind. With no steady employment and a dedication to their studies, how are they expected to afford these prices? According to FiveCent and others at the U.S. Department of the Treasury, almost all Americans are feeling the pressure from the increased cost of housing. Many citizens are about to be completely priced out of their basic human need for shelter. FiveCent and the team found that 97% of the U.S. population lives within a county where the median rent or home purchase prices have outpaced the growth of their income. Additional data has been compiled to show that median rents and housing prices grew faster than overall inflation for counties containing 93% of the population. This data demonstrates that almost all Americans are being put in a financial deficit due to their income simply not keeping pace with the housing costs. These increased prices have left most of our country with less purchasing power for other necessities for their daily life. With such a large portion of the population being affected, it may seem that this crisis is being blown out of proportion. After all, how would almost the entire country be surviving this? This is not the case. Data collected by the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis in May of 2025 proves the financial distress of the nation. Through this data, we can further our understanding of how these housing costs have affected the entire population. According to the Federal Reserve, the top 10% of earning zip codes have seen a 73% increase in credit card delinquency when comparing these debt faults between the second quarter of 2022 and the first quarter of 2025. Transversely, the lowest income earning zip codes have seen a 53% increase in delinquency over the same period. The higher cost of a living is affecting everyone that resides within this country, but it may not be too late to turn things around. I will now play a digital presentation that includes additional information related to the rising housing costs and how it affects students. Upon seeing an example of local Lexington rent prices and the average student yearly income, it's no mystery how students may experience reduced GPA due to housing insecurity. Students are balancing on a financial tightrope. Nicholas will now introduce potential strategies that could be employed to help counteract these higher costs of housing.
Affordable housing is a problem that we all face at least once in our life. We've all tried to buy a house or rent an apartment and have issues with money. Now that you've seen why a lack of affordable housing is a problem, let's talk about how we can start fixing it. There are many solutions, however, I'm going to focus on three: reforming zoning laws, expanding financial assistance, and lowering building costs. According to PBS News, zoning laws control how land is used and what buildings can be built there. This can fully stop the development of most places when it comes to housing and apartments. If a place is only zoned for commercial use, it cannot be used for housing even if there's nothing there anymore. Businesses can close, leaving empty land which could be used for more housing and apartments. This is a very simple solution that would have very drastic impacts on affordable housing. If more housing and apartment were to be built, the prices of them would go down. It's a simple supply and demand issue. And if we can reform zoning laws, then the supply would go up and the prices would go down as demand goes down. The more houses there are, the less expensive they would all be. Financial assistance is a very common thing to be used when it comes to housing. Financial assistance can be a very possible solution to housing issues. Programs like the Housing Choice Voucher Program, also known as Section 8, can give low-income families, elderly persons, veterans, and disabled individuals aid to afford housing and apartments. However, this does not cover everyone. Most college students don't fall into any of these categories, so they can't benefit from Section 8. If low-income students were to be added to the list of people that can benefit from Section 8, that would greatly benefit their ability to pay and afford rent and housing. Another solution is to decrease the building costs. The cost of building housing is very expensive, but if we use less costly materials and methods, we could lower that cost. According to World Economy Forum, materials like glass fiber reinforced magnesium, or GFRG for short, are much cheaper and lighter than other forms of paneling. GFRG could be used to great effect to cut down the price of materials for building housing. Another option to decrease the cost is to 3D print a house. This may sound far-fetched, but it is actually very possible with modern-day technology. Using a very large industrial printer, you can print out the foundation of a building using concrete and other building materials. This would cut down on the cost of building, as it would take much less manpower and time to construct housing or apartments. Now that I've discussed three possible solutions to the affordable housing crisis, let's think beyond the present. What would happen if we actually applied these ideas? Our next presenter, Ansley, is going to discuss these ideas.
Hi, I'm Ansley, and I will be doing the visualization portion of this project. So, according to the 2023 housing report, nearly 62% of off campus students are having to spend more than 30% of their monthly income on rent, which is officially classifying them as housing cost burdened by the federal standards. Now, this isn't just a financial inconvenience, but it can have real consequences on students. When they're forced to work long hours or live in unstable housing conditions, their academic performance, mental health, and overall well being start to suffer. And it's difficult to focus on an exam when you're just worried about making rent. It's also hard to be your best self when you're living in a stressful situation. So here in this image, you can see that this is a chart of 15 cities where between 2024 and 2025, the rent increased the most. If you look closely at this, you could see that in the number 9 slot is Lexington, Kentucky, where the 1-year average change in rent is 5.71%. And the average rent this year in 2025 is around $1,400 versus last year in 2024 was $1,300. And for people such as students, this can be a very big change when you're already having to work extra hours while balancing a social life and academics just to be able to afford rent. This can be very straining and a very big change, even though $100 may not seem like it is that significant. So, the second point that I would like to talk about is the lack of affordable housing options and how it's continuing to get worse. In the Lexington Housing Authority's 2023 report, it paints a stark picture that median rent in Lexington has increased by 22% in just 3 years. And unfortunately, the financial aid packages and student wages have not kept that pace and continued to increase over the past 3 years. The average student job still pays the same or slightly more than it did at that time, but rent continues to rise. So many students are now facing the decision of choosing between working more hours to be able to afford rent or cutting back on basic necessities like food or transportation. So, what makes this even more challenging, though, is that most of the affordable housing programs in Lexington prioritize low income families, which is understandable. But students are often overlooked in these initiatives, and there are very few, if any, partnerships between the university and local housing developers to create specific housing options that are affordable for students. And while dorms can be an option for many upperclassmen and graduate students, they have to live off campus due to the limited space in the dorms. Now, there are solutions to this situation that exist, and my third point is focused on what affordable student housing could look like if we prioritized it. The University of Kentucky and local developers could launch a public-private partnership to build affordable student housing. Now, this isn't a new idea. It's actually already working somewhere else. At Georgia State University, similar partnerships have led to the creation of apartments within walking distance of campus. These are the images on the slide. They are some of the complexes that Georgia State University has built. These initiatives have cut down student rent by up to 30%, offering financial relief and stability to students. Now, just because it's affordable does not mean it's low quality. Today, more schools and cities are embracing innovative housing models like co-living spaces and micro apartments, which were featured in a recent article by the Chronicle of Higher Education. These spaces are being designed specifically with students in mind. They're smaller, but with efficient layouts, shared amenities, and their lower costs. In return, students gain a sense of community with a healthier and more balanced lifestyle. Additionally, making affordable housing walkable and connected by reliable transit to campus can reduce a lot of commuting stress because it will cut out transportation costs such as gas, and it will make campus more accessible. These benefits will be like a domino effect. They will have better academic outcomes, improved mental health, and increased student retention. Now, this is not just a housing issue, it's an equity issue, it's a mental health issue, and an educational success issue. When over half of our student population is spending more than they can afford just to have a place to sleep, we gotta start asking ourselves what kind of future we're building here.
Now that you have seen what the future could look like for students at the University of Kentucky, let's talk about how you can help make a difference today. Earlier, we discussed the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program, a system designed to help low-income individuals afford housing. However, many college students don't even realize this kind of support is available to them. This lack of awareness means that students who qualify may never apply and continue to struggle unnecessarily. That's where you come in. You can make a difference simply by sharing this information. If you know someone who's stressed about paying rent and possibly skipping meals, talk to them. Let them know about Section 8. Encourage them to explore the program and apply through the Kentucky Housing Corporation. Even pointing them to a trusted resource or offering to help look up information can go a long way. Spreading awareness might seem small, but for a fellow student, it could mean the difference between housing insecurity and stability. Another action that you can take is to reach out to the UK Housing Office representatives. According to the University of Kentucky Housing Campus website, their email is ukhousing@uky.edu. Set up a meeting with them and encourage them to work with city officials and local landlords in lowering rental prices. You can also ask the UK Housing representatives to accompany you to City Council meetings. During these meetings, you are given an opportunity to express your concern about the lack of affordable housing. Mention the idea of adapting Section 8 guidelines and other solutions we've discussed today. If enough students speak up, elected officials are more willing to listen. If you are unable to meet city officials in person, you can send an email. According to the Lexington government website, their email is councilcorpsstaff@lexingtonky.gov. Their job as elected officials is to serve their community, and they can do so by fixing the housing crisis. Another action that you can take to help the cause is to join a club that emphasizes improving student life. If there's not a local group already established, then start a group. Group advocacy carries more weight than individual complaints. Discuss this issue with your school group and advocate for low-income students. You can also start a social media campaign. Create a hashtag on social media sites and post infographics about local rent rates versus the average student income. On Instagram, tag @UniversityofKY and @LexingtonKY.gov. This will help bring attention to student struggles. A few viral posts or shares can generate attention quickly. Change doesn't always start at the top. It starts with informed people like you who are willing to speak up and take action. Whether it's through emails, meetings, organizing, or spreading awareness, your voice matters, and it's needed now more than ever. As we wrap up, know that this isn't just a policy issue. The lack of affordable housing is a crisis for students across our campus. We've shown you how the rising cost of rent has left UK students cost burdened when it comes to housing. We've discussed solutions like zoning reform, expanding financial assistance, and even cost-effective building methods. We've also visualized what student housing could look like: affordable, accessible, and aligned with student needs. Most importantly, we've shown you what you can do today, whether it's starting conversations, emailing city officials, or building momentum on social media. The system won't change overnight. Real change happens when voices rise, emails are sent, and students speak out together. Affordable housing isn't a privilege, it's a need, and we can make it a reality for students at the University of Kentucky. Thank you.